Welcome back to Prophecy Unfolding, where prophecy is truly unfolding. We're seeing it happening at such a fast rate. It's exponentially increasing. We're seeing things happening all over the world. Yes, we see all the, what we call the traditional side of things in terms of wars and rumours of wars, but we're seeing the world shaking at the moment. Things that we call natural disasters, we're seeing happen with much more intensity and frequency. What I wanted to do today is to show you just a few different things that are happening in one side of the world and also in the other, but this is happening so much more. You know, obviously mainstream media and the political hierarchy will have their own excuses to why this is happening. Many will say that this is, the fault of climate change. Now, it is a change in climate, but it's not for the reasons I believe that they say. As these things are starting to happen, it's almost like the Bible and the things that Christ says is jumping out of the Bible. The things are happening in front of us. It's not a thing to be afraid of, but it's a thing that we look at in anticipation. But as you'll see here for yourself, things are happening all over the place. What I'll ask you to do is to watch this in full, because you need to get the full context of this to get a real understanding. But also smash the like button so that someone who does not know Christ may come across this and start a journey to try to find out who Christ is. But have a look at what's happening in Greece right at the moment.
Santorini's earthquake swarm now stands at over 500 tremors since this started, with the strongest yet, a 5.1 magnitude quake, striking earlier today. Seismologists warn these quakes could be foreshocks, meaning a larger earthquake could be imminent. The epicenters have been shifting, with activity now extending northeast along the Amorgos Fault, the same fault responsible for Greece's devastating 1956 earthquake. Authorities have expanded emergency measures as the situation worsens. Thousands of residents and tourists are leaving, with ferries at full capacity and congestion reported.
Now, I believe that Europe in itself is going to have some major things happen this year. We're going to see more and more. I'm praying for all people that are going to be close in these areas, that people come to Christ and that many people are saved as they go through these types of what we would call tribulations. But something that's happening over the last few years, and it's happening more and more, it's the whole thing of the water running red. Now we're seeing it happening on a larger scale. This just happened over the last few days in South America. Have a look. Many people, when they're looking at prophecy and we see the things that Christ has told us, when we look at the book of Daniel or the book of Revelation, many of the things that are described there we can see starting to happen. A lot of them can be foreshadows of the things that are going to happen in the future. Even when we look at the geopolitical stage, we see what looks to be the lining up of the last system, or the Antichrist system, or the beast system. We're walking into that kind of time frame. And prophecy as well, it's almost self-fulfilling, because a lot of people will know these prophecies and push for it to happen. They can't push it outside God's timing, but God can use anyone and anybody to fulfill what needs to be fulfilled. As we see these things start to happen, it really brings a sense of not fear, but anticipation of the things that are coming. And we see in the book of Luke, that people's hearts are going to faint, and people will fall from fear of the things that are going to come, and the crashing of the sea and the things in the heavens. These things are going to start happening on a much bigger scale. We have the whole agenda of the alien agenda, and I believe 2025 is going to see a huge play in that. Also, been saying for years, the green agenda, climate change, whatever name you want to put in it, we're going to see more of these disasters starting to happen. But really, in the time period we're living in at the moment, we are still alive and well, and there's time for the good news to go out, the gospel that Jesus Christ saves today, just like he did 2,000 years ago. That there's nothing to fear, that you can come to Christ now without having to wait. This is the good news, essentially wrapped up in a bow, that Jesus lived, died and rose again for you and for me. prophecy, end times, eschatology is not a thing that we should be fearing. We as believers, we see the stories that Jesus told us, like the wedding banquet where we go back to waiting the Master. There's still a job to do within the house while we wait for him to come, but we know the time is coming close that Christ is going to come back. And for me, it's obviously, I believe that the rapture could happen at any time, but while we're still here, while we're still breathing, we have to preach the good news. This was just an update, just to show you some of the things that are happening. Remember, God's always in control, and keep the faith.